Hello everyone, welcome back to the class, and today we are going to continue with the diagnosis of syphilis. We will be focusing on serological diagnosis, of which the non-treponemal test, which includes VDRL and RPR, will be discussed today. We will understand the principle on which these tests work, the methodology of the test. We'll understand what does the various titers which is reported means. What are the uses, its advantages, its disadvantages? What is prozone phenomena and how it affects the diagnosis? And what is serophosphate? So let's start the class. VDRL and the RPR test are most commonly non-treponemal tests used now. Previously, there were tests like Wassermann complement fixation test and the Kahn flocculation test, but these are now outdated. Just remember them for knowledge. VDRL test stands for Venereal Disease Research Laboratory Test. It is named after the institute, the lab which is located in US Public Health in USA. So what is the principle of VDRL test? In this test, we detect the reagents. Reagents are antibodies which may be IgG or IgM. These are antibodies against the lipoid constituent of Treponema pallidum, which acts as the antigen for reagent. So these antibodies known as reagents are nothing but anti-lipoidal antibodies, and they are non-specific. Lipoidal means lipid-like, and these are phospholipids which are present in the cell membranes of host. They are present both in human cell membranes and many bacteria including Treponema pallidum. So these reagents, the antibodies, are produced against these phospholipid, and thus they are non-specific because these phospholipids or the lipoidal constituents are released whenever there is host cell damage in any infection like Treponema pallidum, or even in autoimmune diseases and in pregnancy, which may give rise to false positive results. Thus, they are non-specific and also known as non-treponemal test because they are not targeted or specific for Treponema pallidum. Now, what is the specimen for VDRL? The serum or even plasma can be used, and CSF. This is one test where you can do the test on CSF, which is very important for neurosyphilis. In methodology, what we do, we take the patient's serum and first we heat inactivate the patient's serum to remove all the complements which might cross react with the test antigen and give false positive results. So it is heat inactivated by keeping in a water bath for 30 minutes at 56 degrees Celsius. Now we add the test antigen. Test antigen is a mixture of 0.03% cardiolipin, 0.9% cholesterol, and 0.21% lecithin. These are either synthetically made or derived from some animal source. Now, when they are mixed in a solid matrix, after mixing, they are rotated at 180 rotations per minute for about 8 minutes. Then they are observed under a microscope. There will be the antibodies reagents will react with the test antigen. There will be antigen antibody complex which will form microflocculates, and these will be observed by the microscope as flocculation. These are done over a slide, so they are known as slide microflocculation test. Now the RPR test is a bit different. There is only slight difference in RPR. What we do, It is done over patient serum. We cannot use CSF in RPR. So patient serum is mixed with the test antigen, but this test antigen has additional charcoal attached to these. So what happens? This charcoal can be visualized even without the microscope. So when they are observed, the flocculation occurs. The charcoal gives the black color and can be visualized even without the microscope by the naked eye. So this is important because we cannot use CSF here and it can be visualized by naked eye. So in reports we get VDRL reactive at say 1:8 dilution. We will understand what is the meaning of this. VDRL is of two types. The first one is qualitative, which is you take the patient serum, you add the test antigen into undiluted patient serum and you check if there is flocculation. If there is flocculation, it is reported as reactive. The second kind, there is quantitative VDRL, in which the patient serum is tested in dilution and the highest dilution which comes as reactive is reported. So how it is done? See, this is a slide with shallow wells. So these shallow wells are marked, say this is circle 1, then 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now from circle 2 to 5, we put normal saline 0.5 microliter in each. So in 2, 3, 4 and in 5. Now we put patient serum 0.5 microliter in circle 1 and circle 2. So circle 1 becomes undiluted patient serum, while in circle 2 we have 0.5 microliter out of 1 microliter of whole mixture. So 1:2 will be the dilution. Now this is mixed and then 0.5 microliter of 1:2 dilution mixture of circle 2 is transferred to circle 3. Now what happens? This 1:2 dilution 0.5 microliter plus 0.5 microliter of NS makes the volume double but the dilution is halved. So the dilution becomes 1:4 in circle 3. Now this process is continued with consequent circles and the dilution gets halved. Now if we want to continue till circle 5, that is dilution 1:16, the last 0.5 microliter of mixture from circle 5 is discarded. Now we start adding test antigen free falling drop, which is about 0.17 microliter to each of the 5 circles. If we can see the microflocculation in circle 1, 2, 3 and 4, but there is no flocculation in circle 5, then the VDRLs will be said to be reactive at 1:8 dilution, which was circle 4. If we want to write the titer will be inverse of the dilution, that is titer 8. Now if the VDRL is reactive at low dilutions, that is less than 1:8 dilution, then it is thought to be equivocal and it should be repeated and should also be confirmed by TPHA. Reactive VDRL at dilutions higher or equal to 1:8 is significant. Now you'll come across statement like fourfold fall in titer or rise in titer. What does these mean? So if the reactivity was 1:8 dilution, that means the titer is inverse. Titer is 8. Like in circle 4, titer is 8. Now fourfold fall means divided by 4, which is equal to 2. So titer 2 is in circle 2. 1:2 dilution, titer is 2. So this is fourfold fall in titer. We can also say two dilution fall in the reactivity of VDRL. So I hope this is clear for you all. Let's proceed further. So what is the use of VDRL or RPR test? First is it is used for screening, and it has sensitivity in primary syphilis around about 70 to 90%, and in secondary syphilis it is almost 100%. But in late syphilis it falls again to around about 75%. The specificity remains 90 to 98% overall. It is also used in monitoring or follow up of the disease after you give the treatment. There are some advantages of this test. It is a standardized test which is easy to perform and is also cheap. This VDRL can also be done for CSF, though RPR can't be done for CSF. Some disadvantages are that every time you have to have a prepared fresh test antigen, and the false results may be false positive, like due to some technical errors, or the biologically false positive results, that is BFP, which may be acute if this positivity remains less than 6 months, and if it remains more than 6 months it's chronic. In acute, the causes include infections like malaria, hepatitis, chickenpox, or measles, or viral infection. Secondly, immunization, pregnancy, and narcotic abuse. This false positive may last for more than 6 months in old age, in chronic infections like leprosy and HIV, in autoimmune diseases like connective tissue diseases, in malignancy, in narcotic abuse as well. Sometimes it is even idiopathic. So these were the causes of biologically false positive. Now there can even be false negative results. So one of the most important cause is the prozone phenomena. The other cause where if the patient has the infection but still the VDRL comes negative is that VDRL takes about 4 to 6 weeks after getting the infection to turn positive. So if you test the patient very early in the disease, like before 4 weeks, it may come as negative. Also, as the infection becomes chronic or enters the late stage of syphilis, it may even turn negative in that case in about 1/3 of the cases. Now we will understand what is prozone phenomena. When there is comparable amount of antibody and antigen, then like these are the antigens, and you have comparable amount of antibodies. So the cross linking of the antigen and the antibody leads to a good lattice formation. So this is the lattice hypothesis. In this case, flocculation can be easily seen. But if the antibody is very much in excess than the antigen, it is difficult to form a lattice and thus the flocculation. This is known as prozone phenomena. Now, if the antigen is much in excess than the antibody, again there will be difficulty in lattice formation, that is known as post zone phenomena. So when there is zone of equivalence, antibody and antigen are in equivalent numbers, that is the zone of equivalence. Before that, when the antibody is in excess, is the pro zone, and after that, when the antigen is in excess, is the post zone phenomena. But the post zone phenomena cannot practically occur in VDRL because the test antigen that we are adding are well measured and is very accurate in each of the well. So, and the case of antigen excess doesn't arise. So, practically post zone phenomena cannot occur. So, if you are having a patient who are having clear cut signs of syphilis, but you do a VDRL and it comes out to be negative, then you have to order the lab to do it in dilutions so that this zone of equivalence is reached and you get a reactivity, and also pair it with TPHA. So now a bit on the interpretation of VDRL results. If we are screening and we get a reactive test, it means that there is or was past or present Treponema pallidum infection which might be treated or is untreated. And but we should keep in mind the false positive results. If it comes as non-reactive, then it happens when either the patient is not infected at all or the patient was infected and is well effectively treated, leading to fall in VDRL and non-reactive VDRL. But again, we should keep in mind the false positive results. Now, if you are monitoring the patient, that means you have given the treatment and then you are following up the treatment, then there should be fourfold fall in the titer as explained earlier, or two dilution fall in VDRL reactivity to say that the treatment was effective. If there is fourfold rise in titer, it means there is failure of the treatment or the patient has been reinfected. Now the question arises, when should this be done? When should we follow up the VDRL after treatment? In primary syphilis, it takes around about 6 months for the VDRL to fall. It might happen as early as 3 months or as late as 12 months. While in secondary syphilis, it takes about 12 months, but it can be as early as 6 months and as late as 24 months. Monitoring should be done by the same test. Whether you are taking VDRL or RPR in the baseline, do the same test in follow-up, and it should be preferably done in the same lab as well. Now, in some cases, the patient may be serofast. What does this mean? See, if you give the treatment and there is insufficient fall in titer as you expected, then like less than fourfold fall, and the titer remains at low levels for a long time, then if you have excluded reinfection or HIV or pregnancy and you are sure that effective treatment has been given, then you just have to monitor for like every 3 to 6 months and then annually. No need of retreating the patient. This state is known as serofast state. Now I feel that I have covered all the aspects of VDRL and RPR test. Thank you for listening till the end. Happy learning, and then we'll meet again in the next class. Till then, bye.